This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this video should be considered financial advice. Always do your own research before investing.
For most of human history, ownership meant freedom. Owning land meant survival. Owning a home meant stability. Owning tools meant independence. And owning assets meant power. People spent entire lives trying to build something they could truly call their own. A home, a business, a future for their children. Ownership created security. It gave people control over their lives. And for generations, this idea became deeply connected to the American dream. Work hard, save money, buy a home, build a future, pass something down to the next generation. For decades, millions believed this system would continue forever. After World War II, America experienced one of the greatest economic booms in history. Factories expanded rapidly. Jobs were everywhere. The middle class exploded. One income could support an entire family. People bought homes in their 20s. Families owned cars. Savings accounts actually grew over time. And for many Americans, financial stability felt normal. But underneath the surface, the economy was already beginning to change. Slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. At first, the changes didn't seem dangerous. Housing became slightly more expensive. College tuition increased. Healthcare costs rose. Debt became easier to access. Credit cards became common. Banks offered loans for almost everything. And most people believed borrowing money was simply part of modern life. But year after year, something important started happening. The cost of living rose faster than wages. Ordinary people slowly lost purchasing power. The same salary bought less food, less housing, less freedom. And instead of solving the problem, the system offered debt. Debt became the solution to everything. Can't afford college? Take a loan. Can't afford a house? Take a mortgage. Can't afford daily life? Use a credit card. The financial system quietly transformed society from savers into borrowers. People stopped saving first and purchasing later. Instead, they borrowed from their future, and this changed modern life completely. At first, monthly payments felt manageable. A car payment here, a mortgage there, a few subscriptions, some credit card debt. Nothing seemed unusual, but over time, entire lives became built around recurring payments. People no longer truly owned the things they used every day. They financed them, leased them, subscribed to them. Music became streaming, movies became streaming, software became subscriptions, gaming became subscriptions, cloud storage became subscriptions. Even transportation started changing. Cars became leases instead of purchases, and homes became 30-year debt contracts. Meanwhile, something even bigger was happening quietly in the background. Large corporations and investment firms started buying enormous amounts of real estate. Entire apartment complexes, entire suburban neighborhoods, single-family homes. Housing slowly transformed from shelter into an investment asset. And the more prices increased, the further ownership moved out of reach for ordinary people. Young generations entered adulthood already financially behind. Many delayed marriage, delayed children, delayed buying homes. Others gave up completely. Permanent renting slowly became normalized, and for the first time in generations, millions of people started accepting the possibility that they might never truly own a home. But the transformation didn't stop with housing. Digital ownership also started disappearing. People stopped owning movies, stopped owning games, stopped owning software, stopped owning even the devices they use daily. Everything became connected to accounts, subscriptions, licenses, and corporate ecosystems. You no longer purchase products permanently.
You purchase temporary access.
And perhaps the most important part, most people accepted this change willingly, because on the surface, the system still looked modern and convenient. Apps became smoother. Technology became faster. Delivery became instant. Entertainment became unlimited. Subscriptions felt cheap. Monthly payments felt manageable. But underneath the convenience, dependence was growing everywhere. The less ownership people had, the more dependent they became on corporations, landlords, banks, and financial systems. And dependence became one of the most profitable business models in modern history. Because people who rent forever pay forever. People who finance forever owe forever. And recurring payments generate far more profit than financial independence ever could. Meanwhile, wealth itself started concentrating into fewer hands. The wealthy understood something most ordinary people did not. When inflation rises, cash loses value. But assets usually rise. So while ordinary people struggled with rent and debt, wealthy investors accumulated homes, land, stocks, businesses, entire industries. And slowly, ownership itself became concentrated among fewer and fewer people. Today, many people technically own almost nothing. Not their homes, not their cars, not their digital content. Sometimes, not even fully their own data. Everything exists behind contracts, subscriptions, monthly payments, licenses, and debt. And perhaps the most unsettling part is how normal this has become. Most people no longer expect ownership. They expect access, temporary access, controlled access, as long as payments continue. But ownership once represented something much bigger than material wealth. Ownership meant freedom. Freedom from dependence. Freedom from constant payments. Freedom from financial control. And maybe that's exactly why ownership is becoming harder and harder to reach. Because financially independent people are difficult to control, but dependent people keep the system running. The modern economy no longer distributes ownership equally. It concentrates ownership into fewer and fewer hands. And maybe the biggest question is this: what happens to a society when ownership itself becomes a luxury? What happens when entire generations stop believing they will ever truly own anything? And what happens when access completely replaces freedom? Hidden capital official. See what others miss.